You're live.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Welcome. This is a joint meeting of Community Board 11's Planning and Zoning Committee and Public Safety Committee. My name is Ross Brady, Chair of Planning and Zoning, here with Dr. Law.
Thank you.
Public Safety Chair.
Thank you.
Now, so we weren't sure whether we do this at committee meetings or we just do it at our regular meetings, but do we want to say the pledge? Why not? Never say the committee meeting. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we have actually, I guess, two issues on our agenda. Two issues on our agenda this evening. We have a number of cannabis dispensary licensees who have applications in, and I'm saying this now so I'll remember later. We have a request from an adjoining or nearby community board to join in a letter concerning a casino proposal to be built in Coney Island. We'll begin with the adult use retail dispensary license presentation that our estimable district manager has graciously put together. And we have it. Now, if you can take a look at it, you can follow along. I can read to you. I don't know like when people read to you, but and most of you know all this already, but I guess for the record, this is a follow-up on to the March 2021 Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, which allowed for a new Office of Cannabis Management, which we've seen in the news lately, governed by the Cannabis Control Board in order to implement the law. And the window opened just this past month, October 4th, for the retail sale of cannabis and dispensaries, and applications started pouring into community boards, including our own. We received multiple 30-day notifications of intent to file an application. If you remember at our last community board meeting, we requested the 30 days extension in order to have this meeting and to go ahead and give our comments and our opinions, which is what we're allowed to do. So if you take just a matter of zoning, cannabis dispensaries are zoned in Group 6, which is the same as basically any commercial use, a bodega, any store on a commercial strip. There are some restrictions. It's an issue of what it means to be 500 feet. I think I'm going too fast. You're right. We're right there. We're on location of licensed premises. We're right there.
Okay,
You're right with me. Thank you. The dispensaries cannot be within 500 feet of a building, cannot be within 500 feet of a school building or grounds. We're not sure exactly what grounds means. We had an example in an adjoining district, I believe, where the grounds didn't extend to the end of the, and correct me if I'm wrong, the end of the schoolyard. I don't know how the schoolyard is not part of the grounds to a school. And I think that's something, well, a schoolyard is part of the property line.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would look into schoolyard. And there's other things we want to speak to when we talk about what's near a school, but we'll just run through this and I guess get into the discussion afterwards about what we think some of our priorities and how we should handle some of these applications, the methodology and what our priorities might be. They can be too close to 200 feet from a house of worship, and that's for a building occupied solely for a house of worship, which is interesting. So we'd have to know if there were buildings that were used for a house of worship part-time and like a storefront house of worship, and other times it's used for something else. Does that mean that'll be okay? And how we would want to apply that definition here. And within other dispensaries within 1,000 feet, unless it's explicitly approved by the office, this dispensary can't be located anywhere within a radius of another premises designated as an adult use retail dispensary or medical marijuana dispensary facility. So, there are some of the submissions are attached right off Shore Parkway, which is, I guess, a little further away from, but again, not that far away from some residences. And some of these are multiple applications by the same limited liability company, just the way this thing rolled out. Seemingly, the applications might have been hold up. Right here on 20th Avenue, there, on 86th Street rather, there are two nearby, but obviously I guess not. I didn't go and measure them, but I hope not within 1,000 feet of each other. And on 18th Avenue at 66, 17, 18th Avenue, you see that's a residential. I mean that's well, it is a residential area. It's a commercial zone and residential area. So you can look through some of the applications. 6815 Bay Parkway, not too far away from there. You know, that's on the way towards St. Lo. I know that's on the walk path to St. Lo and other schools. Yes, sir.
Yeah, 6617, right around the corner is a Greek Orthodox church. I think it's within the 1,000 foot.
200 feet for.
200 feet.
Yeah. So, and then 302 Kings Highway, another commercial area. So those are the, I mean, so we've gotten 12, and there are other places, like in Manhattan where Marty might know better, where they might be getting 60, 70 applications. But nonetheless, you know, we're a residential community. You know, there are certain things that are important to us. But on the flip side of that, people did pay their application fees, and according to our sheet, which some of you have, you know, they're anywhere between $1,000 and $7,000. They went through this process, and the city appears to be, especially since it's Group 6, this appears to be something that's not going away. So how do we manage it? How did we manage other things that perhaps were objectionable, perhaps not, that came in our district, through staying involved in zoning, and whether it was, I'm sorry, I've compared these before, maybe appropriately or not, to you know, adult use places. This is zoned as Group 6. It's not zoned as an adult use place, but what do? You make sure that all the applicants cross their T's, dot their I's, or dot their T's and cross their I's, or however they get it right or wrong. And we try to protect our children. And some people, you might have a different opinion. You might think that this is something that's good for the community. So we need to hear from you. I don't know if we have a quorum where we can actually.
Yes, we do.
We have a quorum.
We're in
Okay,
quorum.
so I think a couple of things, and Dr. Lowell, let me know too.
What
And-
kind of
okay,
application are these?
I'm sorry.
Cannabis.
Cannabis.
No, I
These
know,
are
but I
these are
don't
dispensaries.
Yeah.
Not for consumption or not consumption?
It's a good question. Not consumption on site.
No.
Not
So
on
literally,
site.
Retail.
the consumption facility means they can use it on site?
No, it's not for on site.
None of them.
Right. It's pretty, one of them is some of the, well, we have illegal smoke shops, we have now. People going into bodegas. These are basically Cayama's bodegas that now can sell weed like it's a Lucky Strike.
So, one of the, Marty got after she did the presentation, thank you for the presentation. Was another one came in for the 12184, 63rd Street.
Correct, but that was submitted and it wasn't certified mail, so they didn't comply. And that's why it didn't include it.
I know, but since we're here, may as well include it.
Sure, sure. Although they cannot file for a license until they properly
Right.
notify
Yeah.
us.
No, I'm saying
And-
we could go in.
Oh, sure,
So that way, we don't have to read it again just on that one particular.
sure. So, can I just jump in
Yeah.
and just
No.
initiate some discussion here? So as part of the process, they send a notification in the city of New York. It's to every affected community board. And they're required to do that certified return receipt or some other method that shows proof of And all that's on the application is the license type, the applicant name, phone number, email address. However, and the location of where they're filing for. And that's all that's on the application. I think maybe you may want to consider that other boards who have had multiple applications come in, have the applicant fill out a questionnaire. And as part of that questionnaire, we want to know the hours of operation. Will you have security? Will you be holding events outdoors? How are you going to manage outdoor traffic or loitering? If you have a delivery service, what type of delivery service? Because I will say this, we don't need any more mopeds on the street that aren't registered, right? So you wanna make sure the method of operation. And we have a template that we can follow and do that. And maybe you may want to consider me putting it together and getting it out, to the applicants. Following last month's board meeting, when the board recommended that we ask for a 30-day extension, OCM did grant that, so we have some additional time, and I'll have to look at the dates as to whether it falls into the December meeting or not. I neglected to do that, so, when was the last meeting? The 12th? So we submitted it the day after, and they approved it the 14th, 2 days. So that would be November, December. We should have it before the next board meeting, we could do that. And have a clear understanding of exactly how they're operating.
Well, one of the reasons why Marnie's been the district manager for so long is because she can come through a lot of my rambling, a lot of other stuff to get to what we need to, and that's and she's exactly right. And I think what we can accomplish today would be to enunciate some of those, and or give us the ability to then have Marnie and the staff put the form together and maybe send it out to everyone, so we know what kind of questions we're asking. Because there are other things from a public safety perspective. For instance, we do have a template. What some other people did, there may be something like in Manhattan. What will you do to keep people from smoking on the premises or directly outside the premises, or lingering or loitering, or if it's I think we probably could ask, or maybe we'll have to look into this. We could ask, okay, are you on a route that's traveled to schools and parents? So when we go, what are your hours of operation? What will you do to keep children out? Or we can word things in a way that we can get through what we're concerned about.
So we're basically using the questionnaire going forward. No other.
Yeah, no, that has to be up.
Well, that's the question. But that is a question for us. No, I think there's the process where they apply. Then we have our process where they apply, and they should come before us. And we should. And I can put it open to you. I think we should cull these together. If we're going to have a monthly meeting, we'll be cognizant of the dates of the 30 days, because I don't think there's no 30-day extension on everything. Otherwise, we'd probably have 60 days to check on all these. But we'll probably have a raft of them if this keeps going on.
Yeah.
And then once a month to go over them by the locations, and we'll have these questionnaires with our concerns ahead of time filled out.
We could call them in.
They
can
can be,
review the
After
questionnaires.
they, you can tell them after they do the application that we wanna meet with them.
Right.
And, we can do that too. if we want to.
Mhm.
Or we say, we reserve the option
Right.
of meeting if we have questions about how they filled out the application.
right.
But
Now,
we still have to make a recommendation on each one that comes in.
so I think we would have, we would have these applications filled out, and as committee or committees,
So I think it would be zoned, more.
okay, we would, I guess, decide if there were those that we could test as their recommendation at the next meeting, or whatever our recommendation is, and others where we, since we reserve the right to call them in. I think we need to decide whether then we want those people to come to a full board and what that's gonna do to the board meeting.
No, I think it's gonna be zone.
A committee meeting.
I would say
We'll just have another zoning committee meeting. for those.
Besides the 500, feet from the school, and I know we're talking about doing this, but, you know, like, we could come up with other recommendations too that we wanna see. One of them that I would recommend is the one that really bothers me is on 19th Avenue and 86th Street, it's next door to McDonald's. Like, that's technically not a youth center or a school, but it's an establishment that's primarily based for children. That's who goes there mostly. Their clientele is children. So I don't know if that's something, you know, other people feel like, I wouldn't mind making that as part of our criteria, that it can't be within a certain amount of feet from a place that's not technically a school, but like a McDonald's or a Burger King.
Fast food, any fast food place.
Well, not any fast food, no, but a McDonald's is specifically, like, a lot of children are not going to Chipotle. You know, you're not seeing young kids in Chipotle, but you're gonna see a lot of kids at McDonald's.
Would that
They
be,
have the little playroom.
Yeah.
well, I'll take, well, this gentleman's been at it for a long time, but would that, just to get a clarification, would that be under the question of vicinity, or would that be under the question of what will you, one of the questions, what will you do to, make sure that you're not marketing to children?
No, I think it's a separate
both.
issue, not part of the application, but we already know that we can't be 500 feet from a school. But we could add our own criteria, and one of the criteria that I'm bringing up is being so close to, a business or facility that caters specifically to children, like McDonald's does. And Burger King, you know, I wouldn't say all fast food because, you know, you're not getting little kids going to Chipotle, you know, type of thing, but what do you see at McDonald's? You know, so I'm just saying that's something that I'm throwing out there, just my idea.
This is 60 days.
That struck me when I saw that.
They pop in, no discount.
Moni, can you pull that picture up of 1981,
Oh, this is-
86?
and then-
It's right,
Well,
literally like
you wanna get
next
this
to
gentleman before-
It's McDonald's, you know, wait, watch this.
This
One more.
gentleman?
Just have one question.
There you go.
I'm not a little clear with. If these permits are given, does that mean we're gonna go into these non-legal stores and say, whoa, you can't sell it no more because we have legal stores
That's
now?
nothing to do with this.
Well, we wouldn't do any of that. You know, actually the state, I believe,
Yeah.
is supposed to be cracking down, on, illegal
Illegally
shops.
operated.
Illegally operated shops, or shops that, you know, I work in Manhattan, you don't need a shop, you know, you go to Canal Street and it's in a bucket on the floor. It's more insidious when, you go to a bodega and they're selling it behind the counter, along with other things, and there are other things
Our
that.
cigarettes.
Yeah, there are other things that if these are cannabis dispensaries, we also wanna make sure that other things aren't being dispensed at these locations.
So,
Yeah.
on that
Don't need.
photo right there, the location
it.
is right
That's
next
the
door.
one
The deli and grill
Right?
next door.
It's literally next door.
It kind of cut on, in
Yes,
your
it is.
printouts, it's the Metro PCS,
Yes, it
and,
It's two over, but still.
yeah, so there are two, right next to the deli and grill.
It's still too close to McDonald's, we hardly would two doors
It's
down.
attached, it's the same
I know,
address,
but
it's
the
the block
vicinity
a
is still,
month.
is still close to McDonald's.
So what I was going to say is that, the 86th Street, the two on 86th Street, and the one on 18th Avenue, they're all Metro PCS. And so I gather the business entity in those stores are applying for this license, and we'll find that out when they do the questionnaire. But that's how it appears to me on the notifications.
Okay, yeah.
And the maximum that one,
think it's
entity is
three.
permitted are 3 licenses.
Yeah.
So this guy is hedging his bet by putting in 3 applications.
Three
He's
apps, yes,
hedging his
Raja.
bet. You know, he's hedging his
Yes.
bets, but
Right. Right, and, you know, Bliss, the LLC seems to be in more than 3 applications. There's a couple different people from Bliss LLC,
No,
Well,
there's 3.
because it's all 3 locations of a
Right.
telephone store. And so they created an LLC, and I guess partners or principals filed for all 3. So it's 9 applications filed for those 3 locations.
and Dr. Law, Dr. Law had a comment.
I just want to mention that 6815 Bay Parkway. I've been living in this neighborhood for 45 years. I know this neighborhood pretty well. If they have there's a store or dispensary there, it's very, very bad. Because we have several senior citizen center in this neighborhood. The senior, they go to senior citizen center every single day. You don't know what kind of people walking around, you know. See, we got to be careful. So this application, we got to look into it carefully, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the things also, we don't know what kind, we wanna know who the applicants are, although we really don't have a say of what kind of, which ex-con, or
Yeah.
what the background is of the person again.
That's
Because
true.
it's just as involved, people are supposed to be prioritized, and that's
But
determined.
but now it's every.
And, right, now everybody's in, and this gentleman, has been waiting
So-
patiently.
So I'm leaning towards against all of these. I'm leaning. I'm assuming the rest of the board is also. I need to know that before I go on. Well, the thing is this, have we gotten a lot of police reports regarding these places?
These locations, they're not operating.
No, I'm saying, not these, any dispensary issues in the past, with any dispensary.
There are no licensed dispensaries within community
I
board.
can't hear.
There are no licensed
I can't hear.
There are no licensed dispensaries within community board 11.
Okay, have there been trouble with others in other community boards?
They don't have them yet. This is new.
So this is all new, completely new in the city.
That is not to say that there aren't shops that are illegally selling marijuana without a
Understood.
license.
Understood.
I think we can get that information.
No, yeah,
And we can get that information, I think we can ask our local police, are there any numbers, are there any stats kept,
regarding the illegal.
regarding trouble, whatever it is, noise complaints, whatever it is, that's a public safety concern around them. And we would want to hold applicants, accountable for security and for assuring that there's no public nuisance or public safety problems, around their new establishments, which should not be on a route to a school or near a school or
So-
near a McDonald's.
so-
Those are our,
Second
if I'm
part.
correct, those are our concerns, and we can reflect that in our next meeting. if we have a
So the
consensus.
second part of this, for me, is whether there's data or not. It sounds like the community's under the assumption that these illegal spots have caused problems, from what I'm hearing.
No,
Yes, this is from what I'm hearing.
no, not at all.
It's not what I'm hearing?
They haven't.
Well, where are you hearing?
I'm hearing that there are issues in the word's out that there's illegal spots.
There are,
The
but.
word's out.
Well, I think we
which
would get,
means-
we wanna get the word from the police, so.
The issue is, once the word is out, the children will migrate there. They will migrate there.
Well, you're not permitted on a legal, a licensed establishment cannot allow anyone in that's under the age of 21.
Okay. So why don't we, the second part was, why don't we double the footage on all these,
Because that's not the law.
We
So
can't,
can
we
I-
don't make law, we.
10 minutes ago, we said we
Wait,
can,
wait, wait.
10 minutes ago, she said we can do it.
No, I didn't say we could do
Okay.
that, let me just say this.
Okay.
So what's gonna happen is whether you like it on 68 Bay Parkway, doesn't matter, they're gonna approve them, you know, they're gonna approve them. Unless we come up with something that's a valid reason as to why it shouldn't be approved.
Yes.
This is just like an SLA, it's the same thing. You have to have a valid reason as to why. So when I said additional criteria, I'm not talking about, to double it, that's bogus, they're gonna laugh at us, say we're gonna double the schools from 500 to 1,000. What I'm saying is the additional criteria such as that it's next to a facility
Yeah.
that children,
Can we do
use
that?
regularly. we.
It's not the law.
We
do,
can,
but
because
it
we're
doesn't
giving
mean
an,
we're gonna
we're
listen.
giving an opinion. I mean, we have an advisory role in general, we have an opinion on this, which I suppose, I don't know, with the arts of
Less
that, I
than
guess
a
it's
re-
less than an advisory
Yes.
opinion. Now, that being said,
Which is trouble.
if I, you know, if I'm, what's the, I can't get gender, whatever the Pollyanna, if we wanted to get active and we had the set of criteria, and there are boards in Manhattan that have the set of extra criteria, other local districts and CBs, and we have other CBs that we'll talk about tonight about something else, have the same criteria, is there anything to say that we can't put whatever pressure we have,
That's what-
whatever public opinion we have, we can't, the local press can't write that
That's
these
one of the
places
things
should
we-
not be en route to schools,
That's-
should not be on places where they could be near where students are, or market, or they can do reporting on whether there's a spike at illegal cannabis shops.
Well, one of the data things I would like to know is, wherever we know there happened to have been an illegal spot, was there increase in violence in that area, on that block? Was there an increase for 2 or 3 months that it was there? I'm just trying to get,
I think we can answer for the.
I don't,
I
so
understand. I'm
off the
referring
top
to-
of my head,
Right. Was there a
on
spike?
these, there wasn't no. We haven't received complaints about nuisance issues, however, there were certain locations that I read in the paper, where there were armed robberies. And that was a trend that was citywide, it wasn't just here.
Problem. I'm just saying, this is
Yeah, but
perfect.
you're talking about unlicensed.
Of course.
We're not speaking about unlicensed. I mean, there is a mechanism to close them down. It would be my hope that they're rolling out additional applications, that there will be increased enforcement at unlicensed establishments.
The police
Whether
have
it's
been
the-
doing that, let me just say that.
I am aware, and I know the
so-
state is involved for taxation, similar in the way that they crack down on unlicensed massage parlors,
Right. Which
Right?
was hard.
right?
Which
Because,
was hard.
It wasn't hard, you just had to know how to file a complaint.
And remember, what we're fighting too, is that this is not, it's not in the same
Exactly.
we're against the wind here. It's not in the
Yeah.
same class. It's a group 6. It's just
It's
as
a
any other commercial
use.
store. Now, we do know that, Marty mentioned earlier, we have problems with other nuisances and other dangers. We have mopeds on the sidewalks. It's not legal, but it's not enforced. Our police can do what they can do, but there's mopeds, there's bicycles, there's other things. Is this going to increase that nuisance? Are there other ancillary problems that these
Correct.
places?
Which seems like they're tied into it.
Would tie into, or what is their response, and are they prepared, what is their answer to our questions? That's what we can do when we review these individually. And then the question is again.
And I believe you could also put stipulations on the application. I know with SLA, I'm
Opinion.
not really sure
Right.
how it operates,
Well, I think if we're giving an opinion, it's not going to be, up or down, yes or no, unless we want it to be up or down, yes or no, we don't wanna comment. We have specific comments, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, just like everything else where we have, a zoning issue, okay, yes, but, certain greenery, make sure you have certain parking spaces, make sure that there's access to, for cars and the traffic patterns go a certain way. That, in the zoning, in this context, our stipulations are make sure that kids are not having access, make sure you have security, make sure this is, nothing else is open 24 hours, why are you open 24 hours, you don't want it 24 hours.
but they're permitted till 2 AM.
So, I
But-
think we said this the license is good for 2 years.
Correct.
So, the way you can do it is say, after say you have the application in, whatever, and they said they're gonna do X, Y, and Z, is to say that we are denying this application unless the applicant agrees to the following:
Correct.
to close before 10 PM, to not be 24 hours.
Even though that's not
to-
the law.
Correct.
I
This
didn't
is all an
know, I didn't know we can
opinion.
do that.
It's all an opinion that
I
we
didn't know.
give, it's advisory, and you know what, and they could say, the OCM could say, forget this.
Okay.
But, I mean, we could try,
I got it.
we could try.
I got it.
Okay, this gentleman, then Sonia, then Sean.
My question is here, we're in an advisory capacity, the city could just do whatever it wants anyway, correct?
It's
Even
the
if we
state.
advise
The
it
state.
or advise it or not, right? I mean,
State, correct.
yeah, the state can do whatever it wants anyway, so, I mean, like the city does, like, we don't get nothing down here anyway.
Right, it's the state. I don't know if that means that we hope they stay as disorganized as they are or not, but, we'll have to play it by ear. A lot of that is how, how we operate in the face of that. We'll just operate in the face of however they're operating and apply our criteria.
So my concern is playgrounds where children play. Is that something that we could put in there?
It is part of it.
Part of it.
It's part of the state law
Part of it?
already.
Because it's
Is
a
it on
community,
there?
It's a community
a
facility.
playground or recreation would be
Yeah.
considered, how they worded it in the licensing as a community facility.
It's like a
Community
Right.
facility,
Park would be
okay.
the same as like a YMCA. type of
Correct.
Got
thing.
it.
Correct.
Okay.
But if they go play in a schoolyard,
So how many feet is it by law from the
500.
school, from the schoolyard? From the
well,
park?
that's a good question. In the school,
No,
it's
from the
500.
park.
500 feet.
So you could say that a park is a community facility providing recreation to children. It would
Yes.
need to be 500 feet away.
All right, it says school ground, it doesn't say park.
No, that's separate, that's a different one, it's a different category.
Then community facility.
It's not in here.
Sean.
A while back, we talked about that it cannot be, or we can recommend not to be too close to McDonald's or Burger King, right? Now, the two that on 86th Street, they are also very close to a train station and bus stop. Right, those are, we have a lot of students from trains and bus, so maybe like,
So that was the other thing we talked about, is,
Okay, very good. Thank you.
we threw that out about, is it a really highly utilized pedestrian walkway for students? Like, maybe it's far enough from the school, but everybody has to walk, a lot of children and families walk past that location to get to the school.
Right, it's the route, right.
I mean,
The road to school.
I mean, that's something that we wanna consider throwing in there. Another thing that we wanna consider, yeah, I mean, that's, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out. Just to see how we feel about that. Thank you.
Well, that's the school route or the public transportation. So, I mean,
But you wouldn't
including
have
that
them
in our.
anywhere. But you wouldn't have them anywhere. I mean, all your commercial corridors as of today, right, are use group 6 on your commercial corridors where you have transportation. So you have bus stops on Bay Parkway, 18th Avenue, 86th Street.
Well, how do we identify
Isn't that
school
the
route?
problem what they're trying to do basically?
How do we identify
Right, I
a
mean-
school route?
Anything's a route, depending on where you start.
Exactly.
There's no route, and you know.
it's
I mean, they're saying 500 feet
from the school.
by a school or
It's
community
around,
facility.
it's around the school, 500 feet around the school. Yep.
Property line.
Yes.
School,
Actually, I
that should
believe
include schoolyards
if
too.
it's like SLA, it's from the premises to the front door.
Right.
Can I share something?
We can object to
I understand there's a lot of concern, I think there's a lot of things that we try to place to protect the children, but in reality, as a school teacher, I work in school. Kids can get weed illegally in a park somewhere, anywhere, anything, literally. That we try to prevent them from getting into the school. We have security, but somehow, for some reason, they get it in. The more pressure we put it in, just like it just reminds me of how back then when we tried to ban alcohol, and it become such as, everybody it become a tremendous issue when we ban it, but when we lift it become less of a problem. I understand how people try to it's McDonald's and stuff like that and try to screw up. It's too ideal, because as is I feel like from our conversation, we don't have a way to block them, but we can only make it more difficult for them to operate. For example, is there policy that we can take away their license? Let's say if they are filed to serve minor, that's something that we can recommend and do, or can we recommend in some country, like in Europe, they cannot, like supermarket cannot sell alcohol after 6 p.m. Is that something we can do? Because obviously we cannot block like the school round and all these things. It seems to be very ideal, but I don't think we operate in a country that operate that type of law, right? We don't have that. Because, for example, if I were calling the police, I would try to report somebody about to hit me, but the police would question, well, did they hit you yet? We don't operate in the country in this fashion. We can only work in a fashion that we can only identify stipulations of under what condition that these licenses can be taken away.
Right, which would be at the 2-year anyway.
Right,
So
like for
that
the
would be
cop
at the-
serving a minor or some sort of
That
thing.
would be,
That
I'm
would be
sure,
at
an
a 2-year
immediate
renewal, like an
closure.
SLA.
So like an alcohol right now, you can't sell on Sunday until 12 o'clock.
Well, now you can.
Yeah, they
It's gone.
It's no longer expensive, I have a drink.
The gentleman
So
in the
why
back.
can't we do
I'd like
something
to
like
know-
that with us?
I'd like to know the policy that the state puts out to give these people that. What policy is the state giving out, when they're giving out these licenses? Can you
Oh.
set some
They have
criteria?
rubrics.
There's I mean, they do have a website that lists this, and there were certain priorities before that, but now,
Can we get a copy of that so we can look at it? We may need to-
sure, we can send you the
I
website.
don't know if they have that. I can send that. It's my understanding that now that they opens up the window for the retail use without, the C clause, that it's based upon a point system. They didn't share what that point system is, and I don't know if
That
they
doesn't sound
did.
very logical.
Well, it should be on the Office of Cannabis
Yeah,
Management's
we can
website.
look that
Yeah,
up.
it should be on the Office
So
of
can we
Cannabis.
get that printed out so we can all look at it? I don't use a computer.
They have
Oh.
a point system for the.
Okay, yeah. All right, I'll look it up. We'll see.
Yeah.
So, in response to we can't make laws, we can't promulgate things. We can have a look back at people that, as we do in other situations where people did not, businesses didn't live up to their promises or our concerns before. They stayed open past a certain time. There wasn't security, they didn't clean up, they put the dumpster out front all the time. Things that we asked for that they didn't do and say, well, we don't trust you, we're not gonna have you do it. At this point, we can only, and it's kind of very loose, and other community boards are doing it too. We're giving opinions based on what our judgment and values or what our concerns are. Now, as we said, legally, they can come back to us and say, 500 feet, this, that, we decided, thank you for your opinion, we thank you for your concerns, we're going to issue this license. Or they can send back interrogatories to these people and say, well, there's a concern in your district about public safety and some of the other things, and maybe look into some of those questions that are on their license to make sure that they're following.
So can
The only thing we can do is moral
Can we make
suasion.
a list of our concerns?
Well, I think that's what we're doing by coming up
It's not a
with.
list of concerns, that's what we're trying to do.
I think that's what we're trying to do, and I think what we need to do today is, and I'll get to you, is to request your empowerment of the committee, of Marnie to put together with with all the things that we have on tape that we'll review of all of our concerns. And is it possible to come up, can we have, or is it wise to have this made out and then at least pass it have it sent to our committee for
I'll
comments?
get it out this week.
Okay, so then we can put all of our concerns, the public safety concerns.
Yes.
The school route concerns, I would still say, to make sure that there's security and marketing and all the things that we've included, and maybe we'll take some of ideas from our neighbors and include them and send them out to all of us, for any comment, and then, we would have another zoning meeting to adopt them, or adopt them at the. Right. And so if you empower us to do that, then we'll send that out to you, and we'll adopt those as our questionnaire.
Right, but in addition to that, are we already said we're gonna do the questionnaire, our own application. I think tonight what we need to discuss is whether or not do we wanna add any additional criteria? Do we wanna have a rubric of our own when these applications come in? That was what we had said originally, was that's why we were gonna meet, to to discuss, do we wanna come up with our own set of, guidelines or rubric to say, okay, we're gonna oppose this one because of X, Y, and Z.
It's a recommendation. It's a
Yeah,
recommendation.
yeah, but we should still have, those with a framework, so
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying now, is that, does anybody have any ideas for that? I gave one that I said about, like a child center like McDonald's. Is there anything else,
Can't
that's something
sell.
that we wanna do?
Can't sell after a certain time. like
Well, the
you were
hours,
saying
those are a
about
lot of
the-
things we
the-
talked
the-
about, just
Yeah,
gentlemen, and then.
It seems, based on everything that's been said till now, obviously we're only advisory, probably disregarded anyway. And I think that if we're going to have any hope of accomplishing anything, if we give suggestions, it should be very few and realistic, okay? The idea that they're gonna say no McDonald's, yes Chipotle, I'm sorry, I don't see that happening, realistically. They just can't discriminate one store or another. Realistically, what is a school route? If you live on this block, that's your route, you'll never walk inside the route. I don't see that happening realistically. What I do think is that, especially since this is a new, concept, and we can sit here and try to anticipate, and you know anything, so you really don't know anything until it actually happens. Is that the 2-year, reapplication has to be a very serious thing where we're basically starting from scratch after 2 years and look back and say, and it shouldn't be an automatic renewal. That to me, especially if it's gonna happen anyway, not as automatic, especially if it's gonna happen anyway, I think that, we have to recommend that the state actually, reconsider it then, and not just, I'm not realistic about it, but we have to see, we don't know the effects yet. And is it worse than just having a bar, like you said, there are more complaints than a bar, there's always illegal, spots, but the point is, I think that whatever recommendations we come up with have to be very narrow, very pointed, and not too many, because if it just looks like we're just using any excuse possible to say no, then we won't take it seriously at all.
Well, then hours of selling it is probably the best.
Right.
I think this gentleman's 100% right. The shorter the better at this point, because you'll give a list of 20 things and it's just gonna say, what are you doing? I think it's 100% right. The shorter the point, I think we made a good point on a few objects that she brought up, especially with the McDonald's and stuff like that. I think we should pinpoint.
He's saying no.
That's why we can disagree.
That's why we're disagreeing, that's why we're sitting here. So I think the point that we have to bring out, the shorter the better, get it to the point that we know what we're looking for,
And realistic also.
and realistically show them that we mean what we mean. I hope this goes someplace. I sat on plenty of board meetings for the city. I spent many hours and it went nowhere. They did what they wanted. That's the scary part, but thank God we're here, we're talking about it. Maybe one little thing might click and we might get something out of this. But it's very important to keep it short and sweet.
I quite agree with what you said before, unless it's something severely happen. It's very difficult to enforce the
It's
rule,
wait and see,
It's
yeah.
very difficult. Only one way we can work with the police officer. We will close very 60-second precinct, the police officer. Like today, they come to our community, talk about the safety. It's very, very important. Otherwise, as this gentleman mentioned before, we just recommend something. The school route, the safety, senior citizen center or something, put it simple and send it to them, recommend to them. That's all we can do at this moment, okay? Yeah.
Thank you. And there are public there are these are commercial establishments, but these are commercial overlays. Some of these locations are going to be commercial overlays, obviously in residential areas. So where places are going to be where they have the ability to be open by 2 a.m. Till 2 a.m. We've had places stipulate. I think we had McDonald's in here on 24th Avenue that people were complaining they were open till, and we were dickering over between 12 and 1 o'clock. I think, I don't know who won that one. I don't remember whether it was 12 or 1.
I think overall,
Yeah.
go ahead, I'm sorry. I was going to say each application is different
Right.
in each site. So Shaw Parkway, if it's open till 2 a.m., which they're legally under the law, the rules allowed to operate, is a little bit different than, let's say, 86th Street and Bay 32nd Street, right?
do we
Because you have
have,
residential on top. So part of that is pulling in the information on the method of operation on your questionnaire and then review it and make a recommendation on each one.
Are you subject to public hearings after our recommendation?
Your committee meeting is the public hearing,
Okay.
I mean.
Because I
So
thought
you
that maybe
just
this should have been a
remind me
ULURP
of-
process.
You just remind me of something else. What about a property that's down a side street that's residential, except for that one location that has commercial in the bottom, residential upstairs?
So,
It's a use group 6 under the law and legally able to operate, however, you may want to put stipulations.
I see, that's something I would.
On the hours
I
of
would-
operation and.
No, I would say
and-
no to that.
Oh.
Because if you're on a residential block, you know, and it's just that one business.
One corner.
But if
Right,
you
right
put
off the
no,
corner.
you don't have stipulations attached to it.
Maybe you need.
And the state will override your opinion.
That's possible with anything, but I'm just, well, I was just saying, that's what we need tonight to talk about, what are some of the criteria we wanted to set up. I would say like on a small street, a one-way street, like on one of the Bay Streets, for example, and it has, you know, one business with, you know, housing upstairs, and the rest of the block is all private housing.
I don't know that that falls into the city of Yesco for
I don't-
economic development
So,
now.
so
But
that
I think-
sounds like group 6 is a problem.
well, group 6 is a problem, but if,
Yeah.
I'd much
sounds like
rather
group
have
6 is
this-
a problem.
I'd rather have this as an 18 or,
Well, I mean, I was thinking about that for the housing one.
I know.
And that's what made me think of it, is about that, is that this could be the same situation.
Listen, but all we have is our opinion, right? And it's been said, we wanna keep things narrow, whether we agree on what those criteria are going to be at the end.
Over time.
But that's what we have, and we have the look back. And we should just call it the look back, that they're gonna come up for reapplication in 2 years. And we're going to want to not only put them through or ask the same questions, maybe we're going to want to,
More questions.
have public safety look into if there've been public safety issues
Yeah,
at the
each
site
place, we
before.
gotta keep a record of each place, any complaints in that place, and be able to review that.
You'll have no questions after 2 years of business.
Right. But
After 2
in,
years, usually they're gonna have incidents.
Right.
Some of these spots. So you're probably not gonna relicense some of these spots.
Okay.
It's not.
Or the state
there's no
won't,
chance
the
to
state
stop
won't.
The state won't.
But we
Once it
still,
starts, it starts. It's-
we
it's
just,
no longer
we
better.
have our recommendation, so the question we're asking is, can we, whether we can't affect the law, we can just, we can give our opinion and, maybe if there's some pushback on issues that are a concern to us, that ultimately we're rejected on, just because the law differs. And this happens in other community boards, then maybe our legislators who attend these community boards or send their representatives might wanna do something about that. The city council can't do much about it, but, you know, our assembly people, our state, somebody will see that in several districts, or I don't know if the DDs talk to each other, or whatever happens across this city, where these issues are of concern to particularly residential neighborhoods that are, you know, tighter knit, or whatever, where these issues are popping up and people are giving their opinions and whether they're not being heard or they're adding stipulations to things, that are not specifically law related, but some of the applicants are going along with it because they wanna be good neighbors, they don't want trouble, they just wanna do their business, whatever it is. That maybe we can, infer some of our concerns into the way things actually operate. Pie in the sky, maybe, but maybe we can do that. So some of the criteria that we talked about now, we have to get some of them out, right? Our one is are we gonna have our own criteria? Our criteria being we're adding stipulations to yeses. That's what it sounds like. Those are our criteria as they are with everything else. And if I can distill, if I got this right, you'll tell me if I don't. Our main thing are hours of operation, public safety in general, and how the public is going to be protected in a myriad of ways, which we can reflect in our questionnaire. And particularly in our district, I know Dr. Lowe mentioned seniors, but I think children are of great concern, regardless of what the governing ethos seems to be, or what's taken hold of people in the state and city. So, I guess that what I'm looking for, and tell me if I'm wrong, is some kind of motion to empower us to list these criteria of the myriad of public safety concerns, protecting our children, and hours of
Usually
operation.
an application. And
Right.
just leave it at that, just do an application and then just leave it at that.
Well, and then we have to review them one at a time.
Right, no, but I'm saying, so I'm just trying to get it clear, the motion that you're making is to just have the application review with them but not have any set criteria beforehand.
Before we make the application, I think the criteria would be embodied with.
No, that's not what we said when we set up the meeting, that's why, it doesn't matter, what I'm saying though is that that's what we said about this meeting. And I just wanna make sure
Implementation.
everybody's on the same page, we said about setting up a rubric,
Right.
not the application, a rubric.
Right.
Whether it's, don't be by a child facility or don't be by a senior
Yes, yes,
center.
yes, yes.
Are we doing that tonight? That's what we should be, if we're
Well,
doing that, then that's
if
what.
we can get a
but that's in the
consensus.
law,
Right.
right? So they won't license within a certain amount of feet of those facilities,
I
right?
think
I mean-
additional criteria. Like, for example, a child's restroom. Are we doing that or are we just going with the application? We can, but that's what I'm saying, the purpose of the meeting was talking about rubric, that's why I'm bringing that up.
Well, then well, can we get a motion if it's not set, one moment, let's get try to get the motion correctly then.
Yeah.
I think it's just a little bit of word salad coming from the chairman. The motion would be then that Community Board 11 adopt such criteria, limiting the hours of operation, and I guess before I finish this motion, do we have to say what those hours are? For limiting, okay, we can figure that out. The rubric being that we establish hours of operation, particularly where applicants are in greater residential zones or residential in
Commercial
zones.
overlays.
Right, the commercial overlays in residential zones, which is.
Why should their hours be restricted more than bars?
Well, I'm not sure if bars are 2 AM or not.
Yeah, honestly.
Right.
Well, it was 4.
Actually, it's 4
It
AM.
says 4.
4.
Well,
4 AM.
Bars are 4.
bars are 4 AM. Well, we also don't have. Okay, but we don't have.
And bars have consumption on site, these places officially don't.
Right. And the other question is, are they doing delivery services or and all that other kind of thing to their public?
I don't see why you should restrict these places more than bars.
Well, then they're also there in addition to bars being open before we're adding more establishments that can be open later hours in a residential area. We already have the bars. Why do we want to add? Why do we want more establishments open? So if a bar comes in and can stay open till 4, we may ask bars not to be open because we would ask it. We may not want a 24-hour Rite Aid, just using that as an example.
It'll be nice 24-hour rating back next year.
Right. Well, they can be useful, but some neighbors don't want that. They don't want McDonald's open 24 hours, but they don't want them open till 1 o'clock in the morning because cars are, because they're residential areas. When we have a community that it's not Manhattan, we don't necessarily want the community to have too many facilities that are open
It's not Manhattan,
till 4
give it
a.m.
a couple more days and it will be.
Right. So that logically from one to the other being open, it's more of a why don't we want the whole neighborhood to build 10-story buildings in an R3 or an R2 zone? Once you have one, then you can point to that one as comparable. You don't want 10 buildings that are 10-story. Maybe you do. You don't want 10 buildings. You don't want 10 establishments within a 5-block radius being open all night. Then residents can't enjoy the peace and quiet of their home.
Well, yeah. I don't know, the number within certain distance of each other, here, that's in the law, we're gonna change it. Yeah, first, I think that's just, sort of giving them a mini monopoly, I don't think else, but I think it'd probably be beneficial for our fighting to let them be on one block instead of spread out, there's nothing I can do about it, that is the law.
Right.
Right.
So, and their rules are that the shops can't be open between 2 AM and 8 AM.
So our criteria would be on reviewed on a case-by-case basis, that we'd recommend based on, maybe the number of places that are open and the residential overlay, the commercial overlay onto residential zoning and how that affects our neighbors, because these are reviewed on a case-by-case basis. They would be, addressing, the applicant's ability to address public safety concerns, including delivery, security, and what you would ask a bar to do. You would ask a bar to make sure that the people aren't hanging around outside, and there are all kinds of laws that go along with that, dram shop laws and things like that. And we would then, the third prong of our criteria, which we have to develop today, finishes would be child safety.
Yep.
So if we would finish that, then we can have one complete function. I've just been handed the definition from Funk and Wagner. Is it brand, a community facility or branding that we're interested in?
No, the whole listing of the requirements on the licensee. They have to have security
Right.
footage, security,
And there's a whole, and these are adult, the whole list that you gave me is about making sure that this is not attractive. The rules are, the rules about making your product attractive to those under 21 who you can't sell to. Advertising using cartoons, and we can incorporate this as far, into our requirements, without listing them all in a motion.
Is there a cap
Is that the state,
on
is
how
that
many
the state?
licenses they're gonna issue?
I don't know what the cap is,
You
so
said
there is a
three,
number.
didn't you? 3 to 1
I don't know.
one application?
There was, but I don't know what
No,
the
it's
cap
three
is.
stores.
City?
to one person.
Right.
That's maybe what I had from the start.
So,
Now,
wow.
And again, and some of the things, Marty, about being near a community facility, about branding. I mentioned before, what are they selling that, the gummies that are attractive to children? Are they in the window? We know that things have to be enforced, if they're breaking laws, they'll be enforced. We don't want them to add to the work of the police by putting these things in. So we want good neighbors. This is the way we, just 1 second, this is the way we interview everybody, and make zoning, we give our zoning advice, or zoning opinions, and we add stipulations to them. That's basically what we're doing here. So I think the third prong of this, as far as child protection, would be making sure that we get assurances that they will follow the laws as written, not market to children, and I don't know if you want to have a point system where we're saying that that they can't be near McDonald's. I think we can do that, but we'll probably get that back to us.
So there's,
Saying we can't do that.
So you already, is that from the Motor Community Board, or is that actually the law?
From
This
the
is from
state,
the Office
the
of
rules,
This is
right.
what's on the Office of Cannabis Management, which maybe we can make a
Make a
copy
copy or
or
something,
post it on our website's not gonna help, but we can send a copy out to an
You
individual.
can send the links,
I'd
yes.
be very patient.
Yeah.
So-
Maybe we can send this gentleman a copy. Okay,
So,
so.
no, hold on. So based on the law that she's telling us is the law, in there,
The
doesn't
rules.
say anything about cartoon characters.
Yes,
I
it
heard
does,
you
it
mention
does.
but I wasn't sure because I didn't hear it.
Right, this is in the definition sections of what you're not allowed to do is you're not allowed to make your sales, your products attractive to those you're not allowed to market, as I said, to those under 21. I mean, liquor stores can't do it anyway, but kids aren't necessarily running into because they're attracted to a Captain Morgan sign. I mean, I was a young man, maybe whatever. There might have been other signs in the windows. Maybe when Kathy Ireland was doing bought a Budweiser or something. But this is a little different. These are we know at least anecdotally and definitely from news reports that and things that I've seen. You have things in bags that look like gummies that the children can try. I mean, adults use the gummies, so why would kids say they're gummies? Why wouldn't you use them? We don't expect that to be front and center. We don't expect it to be marketed. We expect them to keep kids out. We don't expect them to do wink and nods. We expect enforcement from our police, but when they can't do it, and our look back if we see that this hasn't happened, you can bet that in 2 years, our opinion is a no for all those reasons. But in this initial phase, we want to set that criteria as our stipulation. And if ultimately they still get their licenses, we'll have our second shot in 2 years to say you didn't meet your promise. So the criteria are hours of operation in primarily or greater areas of residential overlay. All of the public safety concerns that we want to stipulate, whether they're in the law or not, and what efforts, and to know what efforts, and that will be reflected in our application. But we want that as criteria now. What will be your efforts to prevent the sale or distribution to children? And that includes people coming in and buying and giving to their kids.
Do they ask to prove for someone to buy it?
Well, they would have to.
Don't you have to be a certain age?
21
21 with ID.
with ID.
With ID.
But I wouldn't expect, Dr. Laura or anyone to go in and buy it and then give it to you.
Well, somebody that looks, they don't look strange.
No, I know. Yeah, well, for instance, with cigarettes, for cigarettes, there are rules, and I'm not sure if it's in this part of the way you actually, have to, now you can present ID, and other places where businesses have been allowed to say you have to look 27 before I check your ID. They can do that. We can at least impart some of our reservations in our opinion, and I just need to know if that's our criteria. You can vote no, you can vote yes. Have the criteria that have been enunciated thus far, are they acceptable, and would I have a motion to then, we'd have to adopt that here and then bring it to the board?
Yeah.
Right, we'd have to adopt those criteria as a recommendation and form it perhaps more artfully than I have tonight, for presentation to the board, which, I think someone wants to do. We have a motion?
Motion.
Second? Sal, third? You can have third. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have to count this? Or?
No.
Okay.
Well,
Opposed?
Anybody opposed?
Abstention? Stands carried. Thank you. Here's the count.
So that means we have the application done and ready and voted on by the next meeting, and that way then we can present it to the board and vote on, and then get it out to these applicants, and then have the zoning committee review it, it's not gonna be disseminated.
We have 60 days. How much time do we have left? We have, yes.
Yeah. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a second, we have a second item on the agenda,
Thank you.
a request from, Community Board 15. Well, I don't, is this to sign on or write our own letter, in concurrence? It's a sign on, okay.
So we
Okay.
have a, draft.
No, so this is a draft, not a completed or mailed letter to the mayor.
That's theirs, and we just did it as a copy for your review.
Okay, so,
I don't remember how many I did.
but they're putting something together for multiple CVs to sign on, or are we issuing our own letter in support?
Our own,
Okay, okay.
but then I'll speak about my concerns.
Right.
So, wanna go ahead?
Yeah, sure. So, you all should have a copy of this letter now. CB 15 is concerned about the development of a casino, I don't know if it's at the old hotel, in Coney Island. And some of their issues have to do with violence, crime, poverty, infrastructure issues, and that also, and then so the their community board has come out, against the development, and is seeking community boards, adjoining community boards, to issue our own statements in support, for various reasons. If it's agreed that we have the same concerns about the route, traveling, about congestion,
Course.
about infrastructure, about crime, about the fact that casinos really don't help the neighborhoods they're surrounding, and if they affect those neighborhoods, that will deleteriously affect our neighborhood. So they've
Boss?
asked us to write something, and I know there are
I'm
concerns
jumping
about
in,
it.
I'm going to
Well,
be
well,
like
she's-
Claudia when jumping
But
on
she's
you.
she's
Yeah, but
here's
before
here's the
you-
other side of that coin.
Yeah, so while I don't have the whole history, I'm going to backtrack. I don't have the history, they opened up an application period for interested parties to submit proposals to the state of New York to operate a casino, right? The state has not approved any applications thus far, so there's no application before us. There were a couple of town halls in Coney Island, and I know there's lots of concerns, but from our point in Bensonhurst, once and if Coney Island is picked, it will undergo ULURP application, which will give us an opportunity to actually review what is being proposed, and I know for us, the potential impact really has to do with traffic. We know the traffic impacts during the summer months when there's ball games and the beach crowd and the amusement crowd, how that would impact us. I just have concerns putting out without having more information, and actually, to be quite frank, a public hearing to get impact from the community. I don't know that the board should set a policy of acting without an application before us on a motion, especially in another board. And-
What I wanted you to backtrack on,
I'm so sorry.
was that this letter came from CD 15 zoning. The actual casino would be in CD 30.
Correct.
So,
What
just wanna
happened?
make that clear that
Okay.
15 that's coming to us, it wouldn't be located in 15, it would be located in 30.
Okay, so let me,
What
can
did
I
13
ask
do?
you
What did
a question? Can I ask you a question? Where is CD 13 stance on this?
They opposed it, but there is no application yet. Like I said, I just have some concerns that a committee would act and make a resolution and not hear from the our community as a whole. They may support that.
Agreed.
I think they,
Okay.
yeah, so the question.
They may support a casino
Okay.
nearby. So that's my concern, without getting public input, I don't know that we should act before an application is before us. While I respect the opinion of our neighbors, I just don't feel it's appropriate.
So are we discussing it?
Oh, we're discussing the
I'm
value of.
handing it back.
Right, we're
I
discussing the
accept.
value of joining in, or voicing our concerns or opposition. I mean, it doesn't have to be an opposition letter, it could be an opposition. What they want is us to join in opposition for X, Y,
So
and Z
they're asking us.
reasons. Right, they're asking us to join them so that there's a larger voice
Right, right, I
against
understand
what they
why.
feel is probably a fait accompli.
I don't know that.
No, it's-
13's asking us.
No. it's
15
just
is
says
asking us.
it's located.
The 13
Okay.
is opposed it, but they don't have it, as Marcia said, there's no application. So it's the question of, we have, one of the questions is, if there's no application out there, do we need to say anything about this? Do we want to say anything about this?
Probably don't wanna say anything.
And why or why not?
Because you
I think
can
so.
have a position.
No, you and then
Oh,
Tony.
did CB 13 write a letter like this? They haven't written anything.
Not
They put anything in
formally.
writing.
There was going to be a joint meeting, and there was just a lot of controversy at the time.
So it's just 15
Uh,
actual
within-
an actual letter.
Well,
Okay.
Yeah, but we will have an opportunity if that site is selected. We will be able to, or we can make a recommendation that we want it referred to us because of potential traffic impacts, that we're included in that ULURP.
Well, that would be it, yeah.
Okay, doesn't an environmental study have to be done?
It hasn't
As
even
ULURP,
gotten that
Oh, it
far.
hasn't gotten
When it
that
gets to
far.
the ULURP
Okay.
process.
It hasn't gotten that
I
far.
went to the town hall meeting in Coney Island when they first brought this to attention. The site then was supposed to be right from across from Gargiulo's parking lot, where there's regular Gargiulo's parking, there's a ride there now. And they said they were gonna take it from 2 blocks over. But the biggest push on, they were saying, the community, we're bringing jobs to the neighborhood. And they were talking 1,200 jobs on a low end. And of course, everybody had this concern, a lot of politicians were there. The borough president couldn't make it, so he was on Zoom, saying that this is gonna be good for New York City, we're gonna bring money in, we're gonna give out jobs, we're gonna give money away to a lot of nonprofit societies. And the developer was there, so really nothing got done the day we were at the town hall meeting, me and my wife. But there's a big push to have this, because they're talking about major money if this casino happens.
Right.
Yes, but in that regard, he said that borough president says, oh, this is gonna be so good for the city. If you look at what the borough president's proposals for the future of Brooklyn, we get absolutely nothing out of everything I've read that thing here, and what do we get? We get absolutely nothing. Everything is East-based. Oh, everything is, equity and pushing it here. We already get left out. So how do
But he's trying to bring out, what I've heard, me and my wife and the other people talking, he is gonna give us back to the community if that happens, because now he wants to fund this part of Brooklyn.
Okay, well, I think, the benefits or the good or bad points about the borough president's overarching plan for the entire borough are not necessarily something, well, we can talk about at this point, because we want to talk about this specific letter. And I understand your concerns, that's an issue, and we've had all these Zooms and all these presentations about, the borough-wide plan, depending on how you look at it, coordinate among the community boards or run them over. There's a whole bunch of viewpoints, on the spectrum of that, and I respect all of them. But, so the question is now, do we want to take a step outside what we would normally do, which is wait till something affects us, or there's a ULURP application? Do we want to, I guess the 3 options. The second request is to make sure that we're part of that because of the concerns, because there are concerns to our community that we want to be heard at that. And the third is, do we want to step ahead of that and say, we have these concerns, we join with other community boards in expressing these concerns. Now, we don't have to say, I think they want us to say we oppose for X, Y, and Z. We can, if you want to call it, water down the letter and not sign on, but issue our own opinion that we have concerns about, and express those concerns about neighboring developments of casinos and the deleterious effect they can have on our community. I think we can be out in front of that if you want us to do that, to limit what we're saying. So I think those, and if I have that correct, those are our options. We can sign on and issue a letter that says we oppose for X, Y, and Z. We can issue another letter that says we have great concerns and we want to make sure that we're included in the process, and then follow up and make sure we are included in the process. Or we can say thank you very much, we don't think it's an appropriate, not right to
I think
join.
we should be included in the process.
I like
so
the
that you
two
have
also,
a
but I don't
formal
wanna-
role.
Again, going back to, this directly impacts CB 13. I know it impacts us, but if CB 13 hasn't done anything or has reached out to anyone, why are we jumping on board with 15?
But they've opposed it.
They're opposed
They
to
oppose
it.
They're opposing, we're not really doing anything.
Because there's no application at this point, it was the
Right.
premise of the casino, and I think that if you're going to sign on, you should have you may want to consider having a formal application and a formal review where you get input from your neighbors.
Some-
Would you like to
Right?
make a motion then?
Yeah.
Can we make a motion that we could
Please
join?
do.
Yes, we could join this process and oppose it. Write a letter and join in with.
But how are you going to oppose it without public
oppose, not,
input?
to oppose it,
No,
casinos in
right,
general, not to.
the motion is, let me
Then we'll have
rephrase.
discussion on the motion then.
Yeah, the motion is to, write a letter and join CB, 13 and 15 in the letter saying that we oppose,
13 never wrote a letter.
13 never contacted us.
okay, then we'll join 15. we wanna join community board fifteen.
Why would you
So
want to
we have a motion to write a letter in opposition.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, that's one, okay.
yes,
So it's not number two.
that's number one,
Okay, now,
Oh,
we
there
have
you go.
discussion on the motion,
in favor.
well, that's a separate motion, so we have two motions on the floor. Is there a motion for option number two on the floor?
I'll make
Well, then,
that,
so
I'll
just
make
a
that
no
motion for option
Yes, a
two.
motion to do nothing.
He's got another motion.
Well, that's not a motion, that's a yes or no motion, is that?
No, to do
You just
nothing.
vote no.
You want a motion
Table
on
it,
number
he's
two?
saying to table it.
Yeah, right.
Well, we have one and two, it's all right, so we have two on number two, we have a table motion.
Table.
We can only do one motion at a
So can I
Only
just say
one
one
motion
thing?
at a
So
time.
Sonia's motion was first,
Can I just say one thing, whether, and I'm not saying either way, I'm not saying.
and this is
whether
a
to-
recommendation to the board, it's
Yeah, I'm
not,
not saying whether to say write a letter
It's not
to
a-
agree or to say no to it. We really shouldn't be doing that without hearing from our community. Who are we to do that without having a public hearing?
Correct.
I'm sorry, I don't feel like, yeah, I represent my community, but I don't represent everybody in my community.
Right.
And I'm not hearing from the whole community, I'm not having a public hearing,
Should
hearing
be
what
a
people
public
think.
hearing.
Agreed, that's why,
That
that's why.
the
I motion
neighborhood
to
will
table it.
voice
Yes.
their opinion.
I don't
Right.
know, the community may be for it for all I know,
You're
or they
right.
may be dead set, I don't know.
That's why I motion to table.
That's
No.
true.
we wanna have a community board meeting, for Bata Casino and another community.
No, only one is you look at.
No, when it gets down to it, I was.
So
now.
we're, so that's a vote, so that's a vote not to do the letter at all.
Right,
Don't do the letter.
table,
Let's
table,
table.
I'm
Let's
table.
table, let's table, I have to agree.
Yeah,
Table it for now.
Table the
Table.
letter.
That doesn't mean anything, tabling it, that
At
means.
this point,
At
at
least
this,
for-
It's too premature.
at this point, I don't think we're in favor of the casino or not in favor of the casino. Therefore, table it until either an
So we
application
have a
is done
motion
or
not to
something
sign
else.
on, so the motion is not to sign on to the, let's go back to the beginning.
Right.
Is not to sign
Not
on
to sign.
to the letter at this
Do
time.
nothing about it at this time.
I second.
I third.
Any opposed?
I abstain.
Abstain.
Lori's abstained.
I'll abstain because I really like motion number two. Because we can express our
Same
opinion.
Yay! No.
Alright, that's dead in order. It's issue two, we don't have any other business on the agenda unless, someone wants to hold us
I
up.
don't understand why 15 came to us in the first place. to be honest.
We have a motion to close, we have a second.
Second.
Any opposed?
I just want to say
Happy holidays.
that,
Oh, yeah, he abstained
Well,
from
hold on,
the
people.
Yes.
meeting, we wanna stay here.
no, this is for the planning and zoning
Greg
committee.
said it.
No, I didn't say no, I said.
One moment, we have,
Marty, I'm sorry, I
we have
didn't
other
hear you,
things to
Marty.
count
What'd you
for,
say?
we have to follow up on this.
No, that's
Marty,
okay. For
fine,
planning
you
and
said-
zoning committee, I just wanna make everyone aware, that the city of Yes text amendments are moving forward. I believe it was economic was certified, so I will be sending links. I guess it's kind of long. They sent the text, the actual text, zoning text changes. So we'll have to talk on how we're going to break it up, so that everybody reviews a couple of pages and gives
It's
them.
700 pages.
I don't know what to say, you know, it's 60.
No, I applied.
Marty,
Certified, it didn't come to us.
Yeah, I don't think.
So we have 60 days, so of course it's right in the holidays, the holiday season, which will make it difficult. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay.